Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The goddess who escaped was none other than the goddess whose wine had been snatched by Qin Mu and whom he had sent flying with a kick. She ran to the corner of the wall, past a screen, and out walked a woman who looked completely different from before. She wore a circular silver accessory on her head and a short black gown, while black, high-heeled, and pointy shoes adorned her feet. Her dressing was like that of an ordinary woman of West Earth. So close. My true form was almost kicked out by that abandoned person. However, I had still given the game away. All the gods and devils could only say simple words like kill or evil creature while I said a complete sentence. The woman quickly rushed out of the main hall of True Heaven Palace. Sunlight shone on her pretty face, and she lowered her head while thinking to herself, the two of them might not have realized it yet, but if they think back, they will definitely discover it. I need to leave immediately, or should I get the 4 spirit beads first? Her footsteps were light and fast. In front of her was Qin Mu, an eternal peace imperial preceptor, so she slowed down. She acted normal and smiled at them as if she was an ordinary female disciple of True Heaven Palace. Crap! Suddenly, Qin Mu's face changed slightly, and his fist smacked onto his palm as he cried out, I know where True Heaven Old Mother is hiding. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was also extremely clever and immediately thought of the crux of the problem. Right, in that picture which was missing a corner. That goddess that was carrying the wine. He turned around and sprinted back to the main hall. He quickly said, we killed the Celestial Emperor in the painting, but even he didn't say a full sentence. Only that goddess alone had done that. He, however, soon walked out of the hall while shaking his head. The goddess that carried the wine is no longer in the painting. Qin Mu copied the tone of the goddess when he said his next words. Where is this brat from? This is the sacred wine for the high gods. So how can you touch it? This sentence is too complicated for the people in the painting. Its painter hadn't reached such skill yet, so the only goddess who could talk would be True Heaven Old Mother. How sinister of her, to actually hide in the painting. I've underestimated her. A woman came to the two people's side and greeted Qin Mu, Cult Master Qin. Qin Mu's gaze flickered, but he smiled at her. Why isn't Sister greeting Imperial Preceptor? Imperial Preceptor? I've never seen him before. Is he that strong practitioner that killed Biego? The girl's expression filled with excitement, and she hurriedly greeted Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. She looked deeply into his eyes with tender feeling. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor shook his head. It's not her. After I came to West Earth, I didn't really show myself, so most of the women of West Earth don't recognize me. However, I killed True Heaven Old Mother's fake body, so she would recognize me. Qin Mu nodded and said to that woman, have you seen anyone walking out from that hall? The woman shook her head. I was going with Chief to snatch Vermilion Bird Bead and passed by here, but I didn't see anyone. Qin Mu mumbled to himself as he waved her off. The woman took a look at Imperial Preceptor, then lowered her head to walk by them. But Qin Mu suddenly pulled on her sleeves, and True Heaven Old Mother's scalp crawled. She almost couldn't stop herself from attacking. Qin Mu smiled at her. How do I address this, sister? Which family are you from? Who is your chief? True Heaven Old Mother's face changed, and she knelt onto the floor while shivering. She kowtowed and said, I'm a disciple of True Heaven Palace, Cult Master, please don't kill me. If I get recognized, my life will be lost. Cult Master, please pardon me. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and said to Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. I really thought she was True Heaven Old Mother. She's a god after all, so how would she kneel and beg a mortal? She's indeed a disciple of True Heaven Palace trying to escape with her life. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor waved his hand and said, you shall deal with her. Qin Mu helped True Heaven Old Mother up and said with a pleasant expression, Sister, don't be scared, there's no need to listen to others. They call me Heavenly Devil Cult Master, but that's just words. I'm actually lacking in confidence, so I called myself Heavenly Devil Cult Master to scare people since I came here alone, but I'm actually Heavenly Saint Cult Master. Our cult is the most kind and will never hurt people. I'm also a very kind person. Look, Imperial Preceptor is even one of the 4 great heavenly kings of my Heavenly Saint cult. That's right, what's your name? True Heaven Old Master was somewhat in disbelief. My name is Qin Mu. You really won't hand me over. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor seemed to have remembered something. I'm going to announce the decree, so I have no time to stay here. Qin Mu followed Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor while holding True Heaven Old Mother's hand. I want to find someone, a youth called Pangong and Grandmaster. He is the head of Roland's Golden Palace and had come to your True Heaven Palace once. Has Sister Siu seen him before? True Heaven Old Mother was pulled along by him because whenever she looked at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, she didn't dare to struggle. I've seen him before. I only know that he's called Grandmaster and is a good friend of Elder Yu Qingchan. However, he's no longer in the palace. When he saw Cult Master Qin attacking True Heaven Palace, he ran. As expected of Grandmaster. Qin Mu sighed, then smiled once more. Sister Siu, follow beside me so you don't get bullied. That's right, the tracking of your West Earth is unrivaled in the world. Sister Siu's divine arts should be extraordinary, so you must have a method to track Pangong, right? I'll protect you from harm and you will help me track Pangong. How does that sound? True Heaven Old Mother was delighted. All right. Deal? Qin Mu laughed and said, why would I lie to you? Deal. Imperial Preceptor, read the Imperial Decree and come with me to chase after Pangong. All right. I would also like to know who is the god behind Grandmaster and where is he hiding, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said indifferently. The expression of True Heaven Old Mother changed slightly. She had thought that Qin Mu would go with just her to pursue Pangong. When the two of them were alone, it would be easy for her to kill this noble among the abandoned people. But the brat had actually invited Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. With him around, True Heaven Old Mother was in danger. Just a slight giveaway and she would be killed by the heartless fellow. With them being next to each other, if Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor attacked, she would definitely be unable to defend herself. But Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor following along is good as well, for it gives me more chances to get rid of him. I need the 4 spirits beads, though. Once I get them, the difficulty to get rid of Imperial Preceptor will greatly decrease. The influential families of West Earth finally pacified True Heaven Palace and slaughtered and captured all of you family's experts. The clans elected Xiongqiu as the palace master and Naikue once again. She held Xiongqiu's hand and accepted everyone's worship. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor read out Emperor Yanfen's imperial decree, and Xiongqiu immediately received it. In the meantime, Qin Mu pulled Xiongqia over and asked for her green dragon bead and black tortoise bead so they could play with them. True Heaven Old Mother looked at the 2 spirit treasures in his hands and fought against the urge to snatch them away. The 2 kids didn't listen to the decree. Instead, they played with the beads, flicking the 2 spirit treasures here and there, which made Xiongqia giggle endlessly. True Heaven Old Mother's anger blazed, but she just turned around and pretended not to see so her irritation wouldn't grow. Suddenly, Qin Mu stuffed green dragon bead into her hands with a smile. Sister Siu, play with Chia for a while. True Heaven Old Mother held the green dragon bead while looking at the smiling Qin Mu in a daze. She had not the slightest idea what that youth was thinking. Green dragon bead is in my hands now and it can explode with the strongest power. If I act now, everyone in True Heaven Palace will be frozen and lignified. Her gaze flashed, but just when she wanted to make a move, she saw Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's clothes moving without wind, and she couldn't help feeling fear. This brat and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor are both old foxes, they are testing me. True Heaven Old Mother felt a chill run down her spine, then sat down to obediently play beads with Xiongqia. In a bit, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor finished reading Emperor Yanfen's imperial decree and Qin Mu asked for green dragon bead back to stuff it into Xiongqia's hands. After leading everyone to receive the decree, Xiongqiu called Xiongqia over. She picked the 2 spirit beads and bowed. I'm willing to offer these 2 spirit beads to His Majesty and never betray him. The expressions of Qin Mu and the rest changed slightly. Xiongxiu knew that it would be hard for her to rule West Earth, and even 2 of the 4 spirit beads had been snatched away, so she just gave away the rest to Emperor Yangfeng. It was a simple method to hold back the methods of all the big families. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor only took the black tortoise bead. Palace Master also needs treasures to guard West Earth, so keep this green dragon bead. Xiongxiu gave her thanks and pulled Xiongqia up. After the ceremony, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor hurried Qin Mu. You have left traces of your romantic endeavors all over the place, but you can't devote yourself to any of them. Be careful of losing your reputation like Jade Face Poison King and have no choice but to slice your face off. Break it to them quickly and let's go find Grandmaster. I'm not flirtatious, Qin Mu said while bracing himself to bid farewell to all the women. He looked at him with a deep gaze. Cult Master ain't going to stay for a few more days? There's still some stuff that's not done yet. Mu Yingxue was very straightforward. Little man, feel free to leave, but wait for me to climb into your window when I go to Middle Earth. Xiongxiu brought Xiongqia to part reluctantly. If we didn't meet Cult Master, we would have died long ago and our corpses would be drying out somewhere in the wild. Cult Master is a huge benefactor of my Xiong family, so if there comes a day when you need something, True Heaven Palace won't disobey. Qin Mu smiled at her. There's no need for you to remember it so deeply since I was just acting according to my beliefs, not wanting to go against my nature. Nikue, Chia, farewell. All sorts of feelings welled up in Xiongxiu's heart as she saw him out of True Heaven Palace. She suddenly shouted loudly. Righteous man! Qin Mu was stunned. He then turned back to smile and wave his hand. Those words weren't the reason why he had saved the mother and daughter. He just couldn't bear to see Xiongqia die under the hands of True Heaven Palace. However, now he was worthy of that title. Qin Mu jumped onto the dragon Chilene's back and pulled True Heaven Old Mother up. Imperial Preceptor, West Earth is a charming world. How will the Emperor treat it? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor slowly strolled through the air while saying calmly, he will treat them how he has treated you. He has this breadth of mind. I had clarified it with the Emperor that I wanted to conquer West Earth, but not through force. The reason why I didn't mobilize the army was because I was afraid that it would destroy the peace here. The women here are so beautiful and I didn't want any incidents like rape or pillage to happen. That's why I said to the Emperor that I won't bring an army of 1,000,000. I recommended one man who was equivalent to 1,000,000 masters, and this man, he turned his head back to look at Qin Mu with a smile. Is you. Under the sun, only Cult Master Qin can sweep West Earth alone. Qin Mu was slightly stunned, then laughed at him. Imperial Preceptor is flattering me. Sister Siyu, don't you think so? True Heaven Old Mother had a smile on her face, but she didn't say a word. Qin Mu stuffed black tortoise bead into her hands. Sister Siyu, execute the spell. Let's quickly find Pangong so, that brat. True Heaven Old Mother gripped the black tortoise bead tightly, then glanced at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. The middle-aged man had a hand behind his back clutching sword secrets. True Heaven Old Mother's head began to ache when Qin Mu stuffed the black tortoise bead to her again. If it was to search for someone, why was there even a need for such a treasure to be given to her? It was clearly another test. Is this brat a fox? He has already tested me 5-6 times and he's still testing. True Heaven Old Mother returned the black tortoise bead to Qin Mu with a warm gaze and smile. If it's just searching for someone, there's no need for such a treasure. Does Cult Master Qin have a painting of Grandmaster? Qin Mu was like a blind man, disregarding her charming and flirtatious smile. He quickly drew a portrait of Pangong So and handed it to her. True Heaven Old Mother was very patient. She executed spirit awakening spells to awaken white clouds, mountains, trees, and after asking all of them, she found Pangong So's whereabouts after a moment. The spells of True Heaven Palace aren't bad at all. If a constable got its hands on them, that person would definitely become a top-notch professional. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor pondered over it. Maybe we could have disciples of True Heaven Palace enter Eternal Peace to be constables. Imperial Preceptor's view is extraordinary, True Heaven Old Mother said gently. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had no expression. These are just rough ideas. They aren't worth mentioning. On the way, True Heaven Old Mother took care of Qin Mu and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's meals and accommodation. She poured tea for the two of them, washed their clothes, and cooked. A smile was always on her face, making her look very wise, kind, and considerate. However, Qin Mu and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor only took it as if it was natural, and Qin Mu even sent her to feed the dragon Chalene, that big fatty. True Heaven Old Mother never said a word of complaint, keeping her gentle and considerate persona. However, she was uncertain. Qin Mu looked like a natural romantic with his mouth smeared with honey, calling every woman he saw sister. However, he was a block of wood. No matter how she seduced him, he was ignorant and foolish, not reacting at all. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was even more remarkable. He seemed to have no emotions at all. He only knew what he had to do and was completely unmoved by her charms. As for the dragon Chalene, he was the most surprising. He always stared at his food basin and seriously counted every spirit pill in it. Even one less wasn't acceptable. When he wasn't eating, he would worry about his skin and hair not growing back or his scales filled with tiny black holes from the lightning not returning to normal. He would grumble he wasn't as handsome as before, then think of how to scam some more food from True Heaven Old Mother. He almost blew her head with his endless chattering. I'll definitely kill them. True Heaven Old Mother wanted to make a move, but when faced with Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, she had no chance. He never showed any flaw. Even when night came, he also didn't sleep and just sat with open eyes. After some time, True Heaven Old Mother realized something even more terrifying, which was that when Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was eating, he was executing sword skills when he was picking food with his chopsticks. In the act of stretching his hand forward and pulling it back, that pervert actually executed several hundred types of sword skills. What was even more terrifying was that the action of taking a vegetable even involved the coordination of his muscles and tendons throughout his body, as well as the transformation of his vital qi. He was always at his best state, and it was so perfect that no flaw could be found. In comparison, Qin Mu was full of flaws, so she could kill him however miserably she wanted. It would require no effort on her part. However, if she didn't get rid of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor but went for Qin Mu first, the next one dead would be her. True Heaven Old Mother didn't dare to make a move and only patiently waited for a chance. I don't believe he can always be this perfect, he will definitely reveal a flaw. In this world, even gods can't be without a flaw. On the journey, Qin Mu repeatedly consulted Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor regarding sword skills, and True Heaven Old Mother listened attentively, hoping to find a flaw in his sword skills, but she soon discovered that she couldn't understand what they were talking about at all. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's attainments in the sword path improved at a godly speed, and Qin Mu's attainments in the sword skills were also extraordinary, so they were both specialists in that field. True Heaven Old Mother had extremely high attainments in the path of nature creation, but her comprehension of sword skills was far inferior. The two frequently exchanged blows in midair. Qin Mu would attack Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, who would always have a hand behind his back. With a sword in one hand, he easily blocked all of Qin Mu's attacks. They were extremely fierce and ever-changing, dazzling the eyes. In comparison, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's sword skills were extremely simple, and what he used were the most basic sword forms. Yet he could always break all the complicated sword skills. Qin Mu got tired from the fighting, so he stopped to rest. He buried himself in thinking about how to improve his sword skills. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor didn't say anything, letting him think silently. True Heaven Old Mother couldn't help becoming curious. Imperial Preceptor's sword skills are godly, so why aren't you giving him advice? I can't. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor shook his head. He has already reached the extremes of sword skills, so for any new comprehensions he will have to rely on himself. True Heaven Old Mother jumped in shock. Even Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor couldn't give advice to Qin Mu anymore? Why didn't Imperial Preceptor seal his divine treasures to fight on the same realm as him? The eyes of true heaven Old Mother asked then. I don't dare, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said honestly. His cultivation is too strong. On the same realm, I could only rely on the power of my sword path to fight him to the death. The density of his magic power could kill me in one move. True heaven Old Mother looked at Qin Mu and thought to herself, to reach such heights at such a young age, this boy can't be left alive. Otherwise, who will be able to keep him in place? Just as she thought that, she heard a world-shattering sound come from Qin Mu's body, dispersing the white clouds in the surroundings. True heaven Old Mother's heart trembled violently, and her expression turned to one of disbelief. It was the sound of a divine treasure's wall breaking, but the intensity was like when breaking through celestial being divine treasure. Bang, bang, bang. Light burst forth from Qin Mu's body and transformed into 7 stars that circled around him. It consisted of Qi of pure Yang that was like a blazing sun, Qi of pure Yin that was like a clear and bright moon. There was a huge Mars, Saturn emanating with earthy yellow color, Venus flashing with white rays, Mercury overflowing with water vapor, and Jupiter giving off the Qi of green dragon. All of them were surrounded by electricity. Each of the 7 great stars had a god standing above them. They were of all kinds of strange shapes. One had a cow's head and human body, another had 3 legs and a bird's head, while the third had a tiger's head and a leopard's tail. The 7 great star sovereigns had all kinds of strange shapes. Qin Mu's body trembled violently, and a primordial spirit that was 15 yards tall appeared behind him. His hands were raised without holding anything, but the 7 stars floated above them. True heaven Old Mother cried out in astonishment. Such a strong primordial spirit. He's on celestial being realm, so why did the vision of 7 stars appear? Did you hear how terrifying the sounds of his breakthrough were? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor let out a shaky breath while his eyes turned bleak. I always thought I was a straight line and didn't have any shortcomings. Only now do I know that I am not. He is that straight line while I'm a triangle. Overlord body, could it really be that strong? True heaven Old Mother was bewildered. She was astonished by the alarming vision of 7 stars breakthrough, since the noise it produced shouldn't have been so shocking. However, what shocked her most was the Overlord body. She had never heard of such a constitution. Imperial Preceptor, what is the so-called Overlord body? True heaven Old Mother asked sincerely to be enlightened. Overlord body comes from an ancient legend. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's spirit was aroused. This was told to me by a senior, so let me tell you in detail. Legend says that there can only be one Overlord body in the world. They chased after Pangong so for some 5 days, which Qin Mu used to stabilize his 7 stars realm. His cultivation became denser and denser. At the same time, when he opened Spirit Embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, and 7 stars divine treasure, the power of his cultivation was almost at the level of the dragon Qilin. The fatty was nervous and felt greatly threatened. Crap! If Cult Master's cultivation catches up to mine, I will be useless. Where will I be able to find another high-quality meal master like Cult Master Qin? True heaven Old Mother let out a sigh of relief and smiled. We aren't far from Grandmaster now. Qin Mu looked up and around them. He was surprised to find the flaming desert in front of them. Pangong so must have run out of West Earth already. He's indeed Grandmaster, and no one can match his ability to escape. If not for Sister Siyu, he would have escaped again. The flames before them blazed high. The moment they got close to them, all kinds of strange markings appeared on Qin Mu's body, crawling all over him. The corners of True Heaven Old Mother's eyes twitched, and she asked in concern, Cult Master Qin, these markings on your body? I guess it's a kind of curse. Qin Mu paid no heed to it. The last time I came here, these markings appeared all over my body. They went all the way to the bottom of my heart, and no matter what, I couldn't get rid of them. Only when I walked out of the flaming desert did they automatically vanish. Even on the bottom of the feet. True Heaven Old Mother's mind trembled violently, and she almost cried out in excitement. Royalty! His royalty. She had killed countless nobles from the abandoned people of Great Ruins, but royals were only those with the bloodline of founding emperor. She had never killed a person like that before. He is not a noble of Great Ruins, he is royalty. True Heaven Old Mother was delighted, and all her sense of humiliation from the past few days vanished without a trace. She had traveled far and wide looking for one, but it had come to her himself. The higher-ups were most worried about the royals. If she could get rid of him, she'd be able to achieve meteoric success and leave the shithole that was this world to enjoy life in the upper bound. Her gaze flickered. Even though this brat is easy to deal with, he's the most important one. His life far surpasses the life of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor in terms of worth. But before taking care of him, I need to get rid of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. It's difficult to deal with him normally, but after entering the desert, I will have a way to do it. Grandmaster, I will have to trouble you. She cast a spell to gather the sand, awakening sand giants to ask them about Pangong's location. The dragon Qin increased his speed as he ran into the distance. By next morning, the dragon Qin reached a well-preserved ruin in the desert. There was a huge sunship as well as a sun that was half buried next to it. True Heaven Old Mother smiled. With this sunship, Pangong will find it hard to escape even if he wanted. Qin Mu's spirit rose, and he smiled. Imperial Preceptor, Sister Siu, stay here to watch the grounds. Don't let him run away again. I shall find Pangong that brat. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked at him. You don't need my help? No need. Qin Mu's speed increased, and he soon landed in a collapsed hall in the ruins. He laughed loudly. Pangong, a friend from afar came to see you, so why aren't you coming out? Qin brat, you really can't stop haunting me. A figure soared into the sky from the sand. With a thump, it landed on the other end of the hall. It was a youth, and it was none other than Pangong. He was full of metal and laughed loudly. You have come right on time. My cultivation has increased greatly these days, and I can finally achieve my long-cherished wish to cut you into pieces and make you kneel before me. True Heaven Old Mother was staring at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's back all the while, and at that moment, she finally saw a flaw in him. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked at the ruin, seemingly worried about Qin Mu's safety. His concern messed him up, and this made him finally reveal a flaw. The flaw that True Heaven Old Mother had been looking for was right in front of her eyes. Iya! A weird screech came from True Heaven Old Mother's mouth. It was sharp, drawn out, and ear-piercing. Magic power burst out from her body, and all her muscles swelled up. In an instant, her skin burst apart. Her muscles expanded outwards furiously, and it showed up that Qianxiu's corporeal body was not her original form at all. Once she released all of her magic power, her god's aura surged out and tore apart the body she had been inhabiting. At the same time, the flaming desert seemed to come alive, and sand flowed in from around several hundred miles. The sand under Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's feet formed into a swirling huge mouth that threatened to suck him in. The huge mouth was like an abyss with a terrifying suction force. Sand formed a line, then a sword which stabbed Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor who was being sucked into the ground. True Heaven Old Mother kept on screeching as her corporeal body swelled up to be 300 yards tall, as though she was an indomitable giant overflowing with God's aura. She had prepared for her sneak attack for a long time, and her actions were overflowing with aggressiveness. She looked a complete opposite of the warm and virtuous Qianxiu that took care of the group during the journey. Aggressiveness was usually an adjective used to describe men, but in West Earth, women were in charge of the household, so it was more suitable to describe them. True Heaven Old Mother raised her hand, and the desert around her churned and rose, forming two incomparably thick walls which slammed toward Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. Die? Just as True Heaven Old Mother said that word, a sword light pierced the back of her head and left through the heart of her brows. True Heaven Old Mother was stunned, and the churning desert suddenly went still. The incomparably thick sand walls that were at least several hundred yards thick crumbled, turning back into flowing sand which was as astonishing as a flood. Under Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's feet, the swirling mouth also stopped turning and returned to being calm sand. The sand swords around him fell from the sky. Where is this brat from? This is the sacred wine for the high gods, so how can you touch it? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor turned his head back and looked at the awe-inspiring True Heaven Old Mother. His voice was gentle when he spoke. In the mural, the goddess that was kicked by Qin Mu had said this sentence, which had a total of 20 words. Along the journey, Cult Master Qin had talked a lot with you, and you said each of those 20 words at least once. He's very clever. He knew if he asked you to say that sentence, you would definitely change your tone and style. However, if he broke up those 20 words and put them in numerous sentences, you wouldn't be on guard. So you guys hadn't believed me from the very beginning? True Heaven Old Mother croaked. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked at her with a strange gaze as he shook his head. Cult Master Qin was reckless to have stuffed black tortoise bead into your hands. I was also shocked. If you had attacked then and executed the power of black tortoise bead, I might not have been able to do anything to you. He had overestimated my abilities and I had no choice but to act natural. You thought that the two of us were testing you, but it was merely that bastard acting on his own. My heart was also palpitating then. You lost many chances. That bastard again, True Heaven Old Mother sighed, and the sword wound in the heart of her brow suddenly erupted with blood. She smiled and said, however, if you think you can deal with me with just this, you are too simple-minded. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's face changed slightly. It wasn't blood that was flowing out of the heart of True Heaven Old Mother's brows but sand. True Heaven Old Mother smiled, and the wound became larger and larger as more and more sand flowed out. She chuckled. Don't you know, 10,000 Spirit Nature technique was created by me. This desert is also created by me. Trying to kill me in the place I've created? Dream on. Her body collapsed, and her voice suddenly came from all directions. I had fought over a dozen sunships and moonships here, killing many sun and moon guardian. Do you think my reputation is undeserved? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor rushed into the sky and sprinted straight for the sunship that lay prone on the desert. With his hand on the sword, his sword light was like perfect night. When one saw the shadow, they couldn't see the light. When one saw the light, they couldn't see the form. With shadow, there was no light. With light, there was no form. Before he could even reach the sunship, it seemed to come alive, raising its legs to stand up. Chains rattled, and the huge black sun actually jolted upward. The sand that had covered it flew into the sky. The black sun rolled in the sky and created world-shaking rumbles as it compressed the space around it. Bolts of lightning struck everywhere in the desert. Sunship rushed at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. As the huge thing sprinted through the desolate desert, it gave off an unbelievable and ridiculous feeling. This was the masterpiece of the Ministry of Heavenly Works during Founding Emperor era. They created a weapon equal in power to heavenly gods through the power of man, allowing mortals to gain to stand on par with gods. In the center of Sunship, between the four pillars, a woman that was like a heavenly god slowly rose. Her 4 arms were outstretched toward the pillars. She laughed in delight. Yet they were only making weapons for me. They were completely wiped out, all dying under my hands. Whoosh! Flying snakes formed from sand rose from the desert. With their incomparably thick bodies, they tunneled here and there in the desert. They rushed at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. Can you feel it? Can you feel my magic power rising? True Heaven Old Mother ordered Sunship to sprint forward frantically and smash the black sun against Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor while laughing. Let me show you what's true despair. Yeah? Piercing screeches reverberated in the desert. What accompanied them was a huge moving ship that swung the black sun and incomparably thick snakes that surrounded an incomparably small human. The sight was astounding. True Heaven Old Mother was extremely unreasonable, and her body was huge, much larger than Sunship. In comparison, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was insignificant. True Heaven Old Mother had chosen to use Sunship to overwhelm him, and every strike of hers was beyond imagination. Her attacks were ever-changing, and the sea of sand boiled. The entire desert was her body, her weapon. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor continuously moved back, breaking the attacks of True Heaven Old Mother repeatedly. As he retreated, however, the distance between him and Sunship was becoming smaller. True Heaven Old Mother became nervous. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked to be at a disadvantage, and Sunship, which was closing in on him, looked to have the advantage, but it wasn't really the case. She didn't have the upper hand and sensed great danger before her. If she and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor got closer and closer, what awaited her when they got a certain distance from each other would be that middle-aged man's fiercest attack. Closing in on him would definitely result in her demise. But it was impossible for her to stop halfway. Only by borrowing the energy of Sunship could she possess enough magic power to subdue him, but there was a huge disadvantage to it, which was that she needed to stand between the four pillars and hold onto them. It limited her own body's movements. If Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor closed in on her, she could only offer her head. But if she didn't borrow the magic power of the ship and the 4 spirit beads, her battle power would be inferior to that of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. This meant that she had to stay a distance away from Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and kill him before he could get close. The shorter the distance, the closer she got to her demise. True Heaven Old Mother's magic power became even more violent, and her attacks became even more concentrated. She closed in step by step while Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was continuously forced backward, but not far enough. Every hair's breadth closer was a hair closer to death. True Heaven Old Mother's screeches became louder and louder while sweat poured down her back in rivulets. Sunship and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor left the ruin, leaving Qin Mu and Pangong standing on the opposite ends of a worn-down hall. This video will end here.